Hello, this blog is regarding the election. Fact treatments. Most importantly, this is regarding fact treatments. Excuse me. It's fact treatments. Now, take for instance, here's something that all leaders are no, are odds to. I want to explain it in relationship to internation sciences that were criminally re-engineered in semi-ancient times before modern nations. That means the most sophisticated legal natures with all the sciences, categorically, they were criminally re-engineered in relationship to lies they had to tell to cover up lie progressions that criminal enterprises cause. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a police force, I'm not a criminal. Criminal enterprises don't cause it because they're just physics. To understand it, you have to understand what forces criminal enterprises to cause it. What forces them to become criminal insidiousness natures. People interacting with them, becoming wrongdoers, which is a criminal insidiousness nature caused by criminal enterprises, run by associate criminals. If I'm wrong, I could be wrong about things because I'm not a lawyer. But this is demonstrably, with religion, is about an archetypal criminal enterprise. There are proofs of this. There are unchanging proofs of this. And so, this is more than theory. This is an experiment method, too, in relationship to known, even standardized lies and delusions per intersciences. And with fact treatments. And the only way they get it justified, for example, with voting, saying that's the most important right. It's not the most important right. The most important right is active. The Constitution is an active relationship to us, common sense. In other words, if you're about to get shot, you have the right to get shot more than you would do to vote. You understand? You have the right to protections from natures of organized crime that have been blamed on progressions with wrongdoers of them. For example, if you want to theorize, demonstrative, not beyond theory, because watch. The criminal enterprise, the devil, knew that if it entertained key areas of nations, before nations were of a different nature before geopolitical internation sciences, internation collaborations with sciences, when the greatest means, before that was criminally re-engineered. In other words, humanity had another nature because of the campus was different. And the campus is different to all areas. Not just with business and with its policing, and not just with juxtapositions of known and of further demonstrable internation criminal enterprises with this. Terror databases relationships with this. This is colonization, was a method before England. England was a war we fought to gain leverage of a perpetual ally, where we were forced by not multiple nations, but by multiple people from nations with internation sciences, when everyone else is just living on from their nation, not concerned with geopolitical sciences anymore, because what they did with this was make the nations not trust our internation science using terror, and they denatured reception of English of all the sciences, which are of one body. We have cells of our body. We have a whole bunch of cells of our bodies. They have a nucleus, they have a cell body, and they have a cell wall. They have three natures. And they connect like that. But they have one shared value, an identity together. That's why identity, for example, is a scientific term. obfuscated by lies and delusions, standardized with psychology tied to it. I'm not a doctor. Science needs to demonstrate the difference between identities of value. Each word is identity of value nature. Now, each cell is a value to itself, which is the shared self, which is the shared identity of positive, unchanging identity of positive overall. So it's not work. It's work while working for itself. It's working for itself is working for the whole body. What is only good for part of the self is not good for the whole body. It causes negative value nature progression. It's a demonstration of it. This system only works. The only lasting system here. The only lasting natural system here. It has no criminal persuasions. Earth has no criminal persuasions. All negative value nature progressions stem through us. Extinctions are caused by us. And that is inseparable from the relationship to the environment. And that is inseparable from a relationship to systematic. So we have systemic evidence fabrication causes and methods that were established before modern nations. And per methods of a nature that knew that they denatured the American landscape, and it would cause negative value nature progressions. And we'd have it set up where everyone would be blaming those negative value nature progressions on different lies and different delusions. And with indifferences of an engineering, and with everyone with the shared fact treatments, forcing expertly, perpetually incapable of understanding its exploitations. So here's the truth that is always, is unchanging truth. And I'm going to show you how they change it right in your face with guys. Is truth that is service people, that is unchanging, positive always, being a service people. Especially if you're going to go and risk your life. Don't say for the country, say for species. You see, because there are movements to use the army because for other reasons. And now see, people like that, now what kind of lies do they have to tell when they're using such sacredness for just guys? Relationship to the expert lean that is only let realized, trained, glorified, not by accident. Then that's only let realized, self-defended by fact treatments. So each modern nation lost. So what we have to do is understand the nature of organized crime, the methods to it. So what we have to do is understand a criminal enterprise. And then we have to understand an archetypal criminal enterprise, which used ancient revelations and understanding, knowing that they could affect areas tactically to exploit internation criminal enterprises, and then have to become a criminal insidiousness nature, and then end up having to commit predicate acts, which are crimes that are affected by and carried out by criminal enterprise, people associated with criminal enterprises. Even wrongdoers, they end up progressing into predicate act criminals, but their motivations are with lie progressions. And so then people start having to do crazy things. And then we have the only let realized natures of branches already reliant upon fact treatments in relationship to this, where they have to take the alibis of these people. In other words, even when they're admitting to the crimes, instead of just staying on the unchanging facts. Because they have also database stacking of evidence, fabrications, illusions, forging even doctors' names and stuff like that. Because of the way that goes with the court, Now that's going to moderate the way they speak because of medical information and stuff like that. In other words, they're pretending people were in conversations, forging conversations, pretending for conversations to other cases, spreading rumors on the street, affecting illusions through media, and police are doing this consciously because they're shifting names, they're sending threats online, and they're obfuscating, and they're sabotaging means for the leaders to see how they've been covering up lie progressions through time, not by accident. So there's a method to all areas before the sophistication with the tie-on was realized. Working in relationship to the defense of business, not of actual rights. And now that nature needs to blame things on what it's not, like prejudice. So that needs to get the people that are getting hurt by it, as the sophistication people need to blame it on prejudice. Because now they're not treating it right with the law, they're lying, to themselves too. That's where we lost the war on poverty. So go back to the service people. It's very important. And with the name, it's very important that we don't attack names and only deal with unchanging truths. So you what they're doing is making Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, what they did, they make every leader, Obama, same thing. They make everyone incapable of the nature of negotiations. That's why Donald Trump used that word, negotiations, at complex litigation levels in relationship to hundreds of nations are tied forced to share the markets of pollution. We have to understand how the Native American landscapes, how we remember parts of it, criminally denatured. The Native Mashantucket Pequot Tribal Museum is the oldest in America. It's in Rhode Island, right in Connecticut, right in the edge near the ocean in Rhode Island. And the Mohegan Sun is right there. And it's always good to promote Native Americans because their rights are still forsaken. Money is worse than, it's not free because the nature is not free. In fact, treatments aren't free. The nature is truth. The nature is a sequence nature in demonstration to itself, which we are only semi because we're only it for a while. For the forever nature, what we have semi memory becomes lasting memory. That's my belief religiously. Now, in other words, interpretation, not of the direct words of religious parts of their books, but in other words, they're saying about at one level, they're saying about the same thing about criminally re-engineered ancient sciences, ancient revelations. What happens if you had criminally re-engineer education? They're not using this word directly because humanity is now criminally re-engineered. Humanity is telling lies in relationship to natures of organized crime that haven't been charged now. So they had to put it in cipher in relationship to, because the methods of it was to have everyone, it was to establish everyone, invest everyone, blaming actual causes of negative value nature progressions on lies and delusions in measured ways. And then they it's a method of planting that affecting everyone to end up needing to cover up lie progressions they never knew they'd have to tell. Now to cover up. In other words, the motivations for our most sophisticated to exploit us with various police forms, for them to take part in the roles of crimes that the only reason they say there's not a lot of them because there's a pattern of them through time. The only reason the pattern of them through time progressively, like gun crimes and things like this, is because of the nature of the methods of the entrenchments that had nothing to do with our war with England. It was an entrenchment here that already had a method of terror on James Madison and on George Washington. They were extorted to levels more than they countered, because they were only countering leverage with England, which was not to just hold on to them and forsake the world. Many nations, people from Russia, not from the Russian nation, internation science, people from Asia, agencies from Africa, they played this game with the laws, with terror laws, with color, and things like this. They consciously made the sciences only to teach physical delusion propagations. Now, so if you use a name, person of a name as a fact, like with Donald Trump, he's trying to negotiate a relationship, what's insane, to Barack Obama, greatest leader, but we're still breached. We lost, yet none had teach. So, what's important thing is that we understand why and how people have the opinion natures they do because of campuses. In other words, we have to treat fact treatments, understand the method of the nature of terror organized crime that was to have us do this perpetually, make improper fact treatments, and blame it on her conviction natures, evidence fabrication natures, evidence sequence natures, shifting natures, and indifference of engineering, indifference of predatory expert lean exploitations because of standardized exploitations of the means to it, and no means to look into that in relationship to at the same time. Not just impositions of hundreds of legalized hundreds of nations sharing the same market positions, enforced overextensions of ourselves. In other words, if they didn't do that in founding, they would have been crushed by multiple nations that were going to do that anyways. They kept internation sciences beyond the understanding of kings and queens, and beyond the understanding of all levels of science, because this was set up before, and to stay the sciences like this, and to stay fake sophistication, which is what we have. Consciously, they built the title. Who invented the title? So they don't. They also have agreements demonstrably. We don't even have to read them. We can correlate. They have agreements that they can't give away each other's positions in relationship to forced shared policing of the same market positions we're forced shared invested in. See the markets going up and down now and everything like that. People's lives are attached to that. There's no stability. And see, that's attached to wars and stuff like that. They have bombs back. Everything's denatured. We have infrastructural standards that, with like the colonial, the ranch, the raised ranch. These were made by terror laws. If you made it any builder, any safer, or any bigger than that, with colonization, they hurt you, your family. This was a method of a breaching method. But it was using terror, and it was using it categorically, like with color with the law. And then even in methods seriously against the tribes, against themselves, to make everyone not remember education. And then to make the people who do remember fake sophistications, measured as evidence fabrication natures. Insidiously, though, so as the only ones with the position to be morality in relationship to mass evil by having by the extent of the mass campus. They had terrorist medicine, had nothing to do with trying to learn, and money and greed. This is a method. Everything was led by breaching needs. But to maintain terror database relationships blamed on other things. To maintain everyone as evidence fabrication roles, natures, roles. We must understand nature, souls. It is the one. We are a species. We are with sexes. We are a species with sexes because the Trinity is in demonstration to itself as a value of the demonstration of the only unchanging positive Allah. So I believe. And English is revealed to teach this perfectly. The first value, in temporary value nature, in temporary space nature, is the complete nature of unchanging positive is beyond the integrity of it, but through correlation. But just straight out, it's only semi-present here. In other words, as the bond to matter, value W, capital W, as correlation overall, positive, unchanging overall, and as nature inherent to it, in reception of that, but also because it has an active relationship to its relationship to the bond before all physical matter, that is before all finite. Therefore, it's before all finite values, the bond. And once that's gone, there's nothing. So there's not negative value nature from Allah, from unchanging positive perspective. There's only the bond to matter, progression up to zero as positive value nature, which is the negative value nature. And then there's after zero, because zero is that nature that connects with the greater nature, positive value nature numbers up to 10 come. These are the three natures of zero. The nature of zero as the bond to matter before all negative value nature numbers. Infinity, there is no backwards infinity. It goes to where the bond to matter breaks, and that's it. There's oblivion. The nature of consciousness, however, see, when we're not positive value nature always, which we're not always since semi-ancient times. This just reminds. So top-down, nations are only trained to self-defense nature's roles, justifying forsaking and overall the integrity of the body of the species. What is positive to it always. This is not. Look at the land in Iraq. Everyone's taking this from training and treatments of this. It's totally denatured. Nothing grows there. These denatured landscapes in those regions were denatured in ancient times. It's just remind. There's proofs. There's proofs that deserts weren't natural. They're part of they're a reflection of they're part of the manifest with a negative value nature progressions. Demonstration to us, we're missing it. Like in other words, there were rocks. There was high enough to make water, where the Sahara now is. Because as you go higher, it gets colder. Condensation comes out. It gathers in the soil and everything like that. Where rivers come, and they just keep coming from mountains. Notice we have no freshwater fish in the markets. They denatured the Mashantuckets, their sea resources. Even though wood was very expensive and needed, they burned hundreds of acres of it. They denatured the landscape. See, but what we have to do is understand criminal insidiousness, left with the narratives. For example, we know that they had slavery with the law still in Connecticut, in the North, in Rhode Island. They made slaves of key Native American figures. These are divide and conquer, not just physically though, where fact treatments are, in the field of fact treatments. So unchanging positive is our service people. But now when we come into time positions with fact treatments, and someone's using that service people as a guise, that's not, especially even if they are service people, that's not unchanging positive. And it's worse because in the relationship to the nature of the organized crime we face. All nations together, because all modern nations lost to this. There are proofs. We have to attend to the sciences together and apart. To the one unchanging nature, space nature has its own unchanging positive identity. That's why there's no negative value nature numbers. There's only three natures of zero. The bond to matter, value, you'll see my video on this, value W, in Excalibur. I pulled it from rock. I'm waiting for the UK from England. We'll see if this is true. Because the legend, no, I play all day. I play, not games. But it's fun because one positive overall species identity is not let have this positive sin change in times. This just minds. Everybody prays for God and then lets it go because no one can see the means, not by accident. It was set up to keep everyone invested, to stay fact treatments. Once you're invested, progressed, defending fact treatments that are as evidence fabrication natures, and even relationship to simple things. That's enough to force expert liens that are perpetually exploited to all areas. This is the problem with poverty. It's got nothing to do with money. It's got to do with understandings, not like, and understand hurt conviction natures are not understanding the hurt that's been there through the campuses when they waste time. They have little kids, they want to make them make political opinions. That's a waste, you know what I mean? You want to make a political opinion, they're just taking these campuses and they're wasting time. In other words, there was criminal insidiousness. In other words, too, please, judiciary, understand. You guys were it's like, it's scary these days. The judiciary. All we have to do is claim it's not free. The means to correlation are right here. Everyone wants and needs the same thing. This is why healthcare is so important to Obama. But at the same time, every leader cannot entertain fact treatments that are forcing us to have them ask us to entertain theirs that are messed up because ours are more messed up than, in other words, regular people's are more messed up than theirs. I'm doing something different because most people aren't taught to ratiocinate. I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a doctor. Psychology democracy delusion propagates. And with evidence fabrication rules with courts, one-way reports. That's the only way we're let realize trained, and to see it too. You know, that's only. This is not right. We have systemic evidence fabrication nature courts still. We have systemic evidence fabrication nature police conjunctions too. Database stacking. Systemically. And this is internation too, side tied to sick people with the prisons still. And with hospitals still. Used for evidence fabrication roles. Even influencing juries. Not hurries, but to her. So, it's important to be able to deal not with even to deal with the concept of mission creep. World War I and World War II. We have to understand the roles of slavery, which is internation, intercultural police, forced entrenched here with terror laws. So when you say that's America, that's our campuses saying that, our teaching that, because they have foreign breaching means, interest. To the extent of the nation's share here, policing. What? Not real business. They're criminal business positions, monopolization. That's not legal. That's not moral standards. Nothing can justify urban standards and infrastructural standards without telling lies and delusions, without being her evidence fabrication nature, and without staying to a nature of logic that is incapable of grappling with the nature of the internation shared impositions upon us through forced entertainments where we can't even talk about their positions trained here together. We have to pretend everyone's legal in relationship to their whatever they investigate with the commodity nature system of the landscapes of the earth. All these houses, look, especially like Haiti, that's worse than colonization for us with terror laws. In other words, they had juxtapositions of criminal enterprises. This is what I wanted to say. Please, judiciary, understand this. You heard the judiciary said to us before that we can't sue the government. We can sue the individuals in it. In other words, that's where we can sue the individuals in it with criminal evidence fabrication rules, known and further realizable. Further demonstrable. You know, but in other words, we have to understand criminally legalized um, criminal enterprises cause negative value nature progressions, de-evolution, extinction, and what is unchanging positive always, it connects with the nature that is greater than us. And it causes positive value nature progressions, evolution, means that we did not see there before. This was the original means of internation sciences. But then these means were stolen. And to exploit insights and revelations already gained by the ancients before criminally legalized persuasions and categorical criminal re-engineering of human education, and to make predatory litigation natures only realized as the nature of the agencies of the nations. It's not, it's not even debatable in relationship to their failure to explain this in relationship to slavery, to their failure to explain geopolitical police, intercultural police in relationship to slavery, in relationship to them blaming on poverty. Blaming it on prejudice, and then teaching people, and then hurting people, and making them say the people hurt by it stay with fact treatments only capable. In other words, not real science. Real science would go right first especially with Harvard. It's not even that big. They live in Forsaken for years. You see people like that, packed like that, the shootings happen like that, because we hurt conviction natures, evidence fabrication nature, not just the monetary motivations for these criminal prisons and the natures with them, and the sick doctors. Look, Joseph, Joseph Mengele. Now, don't hate him. Don't like him. I'm saying we have to be able to understand natures of organized crime with facts that are using terror to have their life progressions and their roles with life progressions unrealized, to have them juxtaposed, and there's proofs that they're juxtaposed with our crime statistics to all areas, especially in Connecticut, Wethersfield, Hartford, New Britain, Middletown, East Hartford. We have problems. West Hartford. And what beautiful places too. Then they maintain it not just dangerous for women. These are predatory interests to maintain evidence fabrication means maintaining needs to maintain other criminal progressions that they have no monetary motivations in. They have they have evidence fabrication, lie progression, cover up motivations, needs, and shared means to get away with it, not by accident. It's only realized by modern nations. So we only are realized candidates reaching out for hurt conviction nature help, evidence fabrication nature help, money help, which is not an unchanging fact. You know what I'm saying? We have criminal persuasions that were legalized, but criminally and with terror. So we are not by accident. We have litigation natures, legal natures who can't explain poverty. I mean, or poverty or slavery or witch trials without realizing their own nature. In other words, without demonstrating the nature of intercourt, especially the probate court and healthcare corruption. And see, we're investing in a way to keep everyone attacking anyone with proper fact treatments, attacking anyone who doesn't vote if they don't know. You know what I mean? Attacking people if they say they want to vote for a candidate, and with predatory fact treatment, predatory nature. We have the news with people only we have the news like they're supposed to be professional. They're talking about they can't take stress anymore. Where's the stress? The stress is only coming from the lying. If you tell the truth, what's positive to the body always sets us free. That's Marbury versus Madison. I am not a lawyer. True justice must satisfy all appearances of true justice. That means even to the self. Please, your honors. Of nations. Every nation fell to this. Every modern nation. All we have to do is admit it. We want the garden. We need the garden. Then we fight about seeds. And then it's just who comes first. But everyone's going to get help, because especially Haiti. Those are not. With slavery, with juxtapositions of criminal enterprises, they made terror laws. They made our houses rat traps, rat trap progressions. They're worse than that. And see, they're over there, all those nations that are shared with the market value positions over there, they're blaming it on us. And we have that maintained as the campuses here, because they're exploiting the kids. They're teaching them, and this is why they're ending up having shooting progressions. Like, they're teaching the kids that America did these things because because the way they were taking to self-defense of lies. Incapable of defending that at the same time as explaining the nature of the extortion and the forced terror political theater of James Madison, of George Washington. They didn't have free speech. Let someone teach. Who will reach? We're breach. Admit all wrong. Sing common song. We teach and train. We gain to gain, again, again. Whole tribes, tribes. In sequence first. Native Americans can't even believe. Let justice come. How come we have no freshwater fish in the markets? It's not by accident. You don't have to take care of them. How come the water is polluted? It's not by accident. You just put it above where all the pollution goes. It's not by accident. this evidence fabrication nature method set everything up to affect negative value nature progressions, perpetually blamed on lies and delusions, and measured at that in relationship to how they have an evidence fabrication method. In other words, a breaching method of perpetuating everyone incapable of seeing its roles with our life progressions, with our actors with roles, not just the criminals with roles with it, but with our leaders with roles with it, geopolitical, and with like healthcare, glorifications of that. Being healthcare, helping someone with their health is unchanging, positive in all ways. Excuse me. But when used to hurt, we used to cover up hurt with other people with it. You know, it's when you use it for fact treatments to obfuscate things that have nothing to do with that, then now it's not positive always. Now it becomes predatory. You see, and there's so many contexts at once. We have only people that we have leaders forcing, only capable, only let trained to senses like what makes them feel good. In other words, physical delusions. In other words, incapable of admitting truth and then admitting how sloppy they think, how fraud they think. Because obviously, since founding, service people's titles have been exploited like everyone else, but not for natural human nature. This is for criminal persuasions, especially criminally legalized persuasions, because they're not alone, but was here before that. In other words, there's proofs of it, but we have to address the unchanging truths, like that there was uncharged criminal enterprises with the North here, and how and why. And people say, "Oh, well, that's the past. Forget the past." That's saying that you have physical delusions attached to reason, hurt conviction nature, in relationship to all the points that people have to make points that are important to have reality in the conversation. Evidence fabrication nature, saying, "Oh, that doesn't matter, it's the past." You see what I'm saying? These aren't just words to hurt feelings, but only feelings are allowed to feel. Because we have fraud leaders who need to pretend that together because they're sharing the same lies, to keep the business going and unrealized from public understanding. Keep everyone sharing the name, the guise of education and of color to campuses, into areas, intercity too. And the same people exploiting that are the same people exploiting the suburbs too, methodically in relationship to all that intercore connection, interbranch connections through time before we were founded. That's the nature of it today. Massive. That's why we have police and political people that say, "Oh, the crime statistics, they play politics, whatever, they say whatever, they think they're going down." They're sick. If there's one shooting, there's something seriously sick. Something went wrong with potential. When they have people homeless, especially have service people homeless, it makes no sense. You know what I'm saying? The only way it makes sense is in relationship to say people forsake the past and forsake the present in relationship to reality, in relationship to physical, only let realized, trained, glorified takes on politicians, on politics. In other words, there's a physical delusion, the concept of a politic. Marbury versus Madison. True justice must satisfy true justice always. What's that mean? Means money doesn't mean anything. The only reason it means something is because we have breaching methods, are sharing everyone, leaders only let realize, rely upon shared means to get away with life progression, cover-ups. It needs to, because the only way they're let trained to do that. And then that no one gets to see how that gets, once you're involved with that, then we have what's called misprision criminality. I'm not a lawyer. In other words, where colleagues have to defend each other. Natures of business have to defend other natures of business because they tell the same lies as them. They have to force search on internet, not for candidates, but for each candidate's contained side, forcing the candidates to share evidence fabrication nature help only, hurt conviction nature help only, indifference nature help only, guys to blind service, expertly. We have the blind faith, we have the blind greatness of the nature of people who will give blind service, but not once has it been respected. And the only people they can only hurt others to show respect or force guys with time. I'm not saying if you want to do something, do something for people. Talk nonsense. Teach people. And you can't do it through business, so you have to admit we're broke. We have to admit we're wrong at once. So in other words, there's all points of correlation are the only positive points. International relations will not positively progress. Evolution is another obfuscated term. It's an identity of value needed by the scientists to demonstrate what positive, real, unchanging positive value nature causes, which is positive value nature progressions. Now, the sciences are obligated to name what those that particular positive value nature progressions are evolution. Unchanging positive value nature progressions. Only 70 positive value nature is negative value nature. Tutto fanute. The thing's about to go out. Buonasera. Meselam. Hola. Hola, ¿cómo estás? Isni san chico kuru kuchichi hachi yuju.